Hello, it's Elizabeth Busby here, and welcome to Discerning Marriage. Today, I am taking one of your questions from Instagram, and it is a doozy because you were super honest, and I love honest questions. I'm sure a lot of you will appreciate this one. If one doesn't have to be 100% attracted to their significant other, how to deal with the parts of them that you find meh? Love that question. Now, I'm going to answer this question in two different ways. I'm going to answer it from like a quality, like the qualities about the person, the personality, like emotional traits, etc. And then I'm going to answer from the physical perspective, because I imagine some of you are listening to this question and hear it from an emotional, quality characteristic perspective. And some of you are listening to the question and hearing it from a physical perspective. Okay, so I'm going to start with the emotional. It is basically impossible for two people to like everything about the other person. If you think back to when you lived in your house growing up, you probably didn't like everything about your parents. You probably didn't like everything about your siblings. If you are just watching this and you have children, you probably don't love every single quality in your children either, right? Like when you are in a relationship with another person, there are things about them that you don't like. That is totally normal. It is not a reason to break up. It is not a reason to end a relationship. It is not a reason to not continue pursuing marriage with somebody when you are in a place where you don't love every single thing about them, because there are lots and lots and lots of qualities in a person. And so in order for two people to be completely simpatico on all of those, like, I don't even think identical twins are like that, you guys. Like that every single quality in them is the exact same even when they share DNA. So first of all, normalize. You don't need to be 100% attracted to every single quality in your significant other. And what do you do about that when you're not? Emotionally, when it comes to it, there's just going to be things about the person that irritate you. And you get the opportunity to develop virtue around the area of bearing with them patiently. When you read through 1 Corinthians 13, all of the different like love is this, love is this, love is this, love bears all things, right? So when a thing comes up that the other person is doing that you don't like, it is a quality that is not attractive to you, it is important to, first of all, bear with that. Recognize that you love the entire person and that you are able to be patient with that particular idiosyncrasy that you don't like. Now, the counselor in me, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, the counselor in me also wants to point out that communicating about the issue is also totally reasonable, right? So if it's something like you're a tidy person and they're messy and they're leaving their stuff all over the floor and you're like, when we get married, you can't do this. It's going to drive me absolutely bonkers. Like, okay, well, communicate that to them, right? Like it's important to me that we keep a tidy home. Can you please pick up after yourself? And then the other person gets to practice virtue of like, man, my natural inclination is just to leave this on the ground, but I'm going to choose for love of you to pick this up and put it away. A couple will have to have that conversation over and over and over and over in a relationship because there are always going to be new things that pop up and new seasons in a life and new varying abilities to practice virtue in any given situation. So be prepared to have those sorts of conversations and be prepared to receive those conversations without any sort of defensiveness. So once you come to terms with that kind of emotional piece and recognizing that you're going to need to practice virtue, you're going to need to have some tough conversations, and it's reasonable to expect your partner to practice virtue, I'm going to now move on to the physical piece of it. So here's one of those things about being physically attracted to someone that I always want to point out, because most of the time I'm having this conversation with young people who are in their 20s, their 30s, maybe their early 40s, and they're having these conversations about like, oh, I'm not attracted to this piece of them, or I'm not attracted to that piece of them. And what I always want to bring up is, listen, old age and death is coming for everybody, if you're lucky enough to live to your old age. So all of those physical characteristics that you are attracted to are like gonna fade away, except maybe eye color. Like everything else is going to change because as we wither and grow old, those physically attractive characteristics end up fading, right? Growing old and fading. So if you are hanging a lot of weight on physical attractiveness or this particular quality in a person that doesn't measure up to like what you're imagining or what you're hoping for or whatever, I would really challenge that, because if you're tying so much to that, what are you going to do in 30 years, 40 years when that piece of that person changes dramatically? So really questioning your own motive and your own reasoning behind being so drawn to that and kind of the motivation behind it. Now, it could be just that you're attracted in a normal, healthy, like I'm drawn to beauty kind of way, and there's something about the person that just isn't physically attractive to you. You have two choices. You can decide that that is worth it to you, that to end the relationship and walk away from all of the other good qualities, or you can pray for the grace to love them even through that piece, because there are so many other really beautiful things about them. And if you choose that second one, the odds are that the more you fall in love with the person in their wholeness and complexity and who they are, the less that physical characteristic is going to bother you. If you get to a point where it does bother you so much, it would be better to break up than to be grumpy about it forever and then get married and then be really, really tempted to cheat on the person because of this physical issue. But I would say that is much more of an issue with you than an issue with the other person's physical characteristic. So that's kind of like a big cis tough love thing. But it's true, right? You need to have your priorities straight when it comes to physical intimacy. And this is true for men and women, right? We give men a lot of weight in this category because men are so physically wired and they see a lot of the physical characteristics of women and use that to kind of make their decisions and their discernments. But I get a lot of questions from women too about physical elements of men. And I have no idea if that has always been the case or if that's a result of the pornographic culture that we live in that is so physically wired and attractiveness wired. I don't know. But it is important to recognize that physical characteristics ought to be held in the context of the entire person. And the vast majority of the time, when you are pursuing the whole person, even those particular characteristics that are meh, that aren't your favorite, you are able to recognize, you know what? Even in your prayer, like, that's not my favorite, but Lord, please help me see this person the way that you see them. And when it comes to physical characteristics, even though emotionally I said bring it up if there's like a characteristic or a quality or personality trait that you don't like, I would not necessarily advocate for bringing up the physical intimacy piece. There are situations where that advice doesn't hold. And in some instances, it's okay to bring it up. Most of the time, though, it will be received as a really hurtful comment and will be very painful for the person to receive and probably will not serve any good because most of the time that's a characteristic that they can't change. So take that 2 cents and do with it what you will. I hope this was helpful. If you ever have a question, please follow me on Instagram at Discerning Marriage and let me know. And make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell because it is so fun to get to show up on your page and chat with you about these things that are so fun and important. Until next time, stay close to the heart of Jesus and be not afraid. Bye.